Well, thank you, Paul and Zabeth, for being here. I know it would be under wonderful circumstances if the circumstances were different, but the reason why you're here is to tell your story. And it's a story that's gone on for a number of years now. It's a story that is shared by so many because so many people find themselves involved with the Ministry of Children and Families, their children removed from them. I've often said that, I'm sure our audience knows, for many years, and I still continue, I help families that are been wrongly involved with by the Ministry of Children and Families. And one of the things that always surprised me was how parents can let their kids just be hauled out of their homes on a Friday evening, usually between 9 and 10 o'clock at night, and think that common sense is going to prevail. Yeah. Common sense doesn't prevail in these cases. And years ago, I was involved in a very high-profile war with then social credit government. My goodness, that goes back.
A long time ago.
Norm Jacobson was minister of, it wasn't Ministry of Children and Families, but its equivalent back then. And he basically challenged me to a public inquiry, which I embraced. And at the end of this hour, I'm going to be challenging that very thing to Mary Polak, who is the Minister of Children and Families. I have about 5 cases, Madam Minister, that I think if you were to truly investigate, you would find and identify consistent problems within your ministry that are causing harm to children. Your ministry, Madam Minister. This case is certainly one of them. Let's start back how many years ago when all this began for you two?
This started on October the 22nd, 2007, when they officially removed our 3 children from us.
Now, you 3 children at that time, but you now have 4 children. You just had a baby just a few weeks ago now, isn't it?
Yes, it was February the 10th.
Yeah.
And that child's been removed as well.
Yes.
He was removed the same day.
And all of these removals stem from one particular case, one particular incident, one particular report of an injury. This was way back, so and that's the crucial thing that's been the point of debate from the very beginning. And everything, all the bad things that have happened to you and your family since then, all flow from that one thing. What was it that got the attention of the ministry officials, police, health officials in the first place? What exactly happened?
It was an in-home accident that happened. There was injury on our baby. After feeding of our baby, I had placed her on a blanket on the floor, and our second son came around the corner and he fell on top of her, and it caused an injury, and this is where this all stems from. She was misdiagnosed.
Well, and that, going back to the history of your case, I mean, you as diligent parents took her to the hospital, had her checked. The doctor said, no, she'll be fine, but you knew that there was something still wrong with her.
Right.
So
Yes.
you persisted until you could find what was wrong with her. So the medical people didn't even, at first go, give it any second thought.
No, they didn't.
3 weeks.
No, yeah, it was approximately 3 weeks that we spent going from emergencies to doctors' clinics, calling the public health line, asking for advice. And during those 3 weeks, the medical professionals noted but allowed our daughter's head to swell 6 centimeters. And she was constantly vomiting. She got dehydrated. And I think that those 3 weeks caused more extensive damage to her than what would have happened if she had been treated.
So, Paul, at what stage did non-health authorities step in, and what were they, like police and or social workers? When did they step in and start thinking that something else was going on here rather than an accident in the home?
Well,
And I'm going to ask you to talk really close into your mic.
Sure. Yeah.
I imagine it was about the 18th when we went into Children's Hospital, wasn't it? The doctor we don't know exactly what day it was, but we know that they officially removed the children on the 22nd.
So, had you been told before the removal that they were having suspicions that this was not just an accident, or did that come as a surprise?
We had a meeting with the social worker of the hospital, and she told us she needed to notify the ministry because of this, because the doctor suspected it was shaken baby syndrome.
Okay, well, hang on a second. Shaken baby syndrome.
Right.
And did they point a finger at either of you at that stage, or did
No,
they
no.
Yeah.
Usually it's one person that's isolated for the cause of shaken baby
Yeah.
syndrome, but in our case we were home together
Right.
during the time frame, and they didn't point it at either one of us in particular.
Now, you had at that time 2 older children, and this was the baby of the 3.
Yes.
Had there been any other incidents involving the 2 other children that had come to the attention of social workers or police before then?
Yes, our second son was born at 25 weeks, and due to his premature birth, the doctors noted that he got osteopenia at prematurity. Due to injury at that time, the ministry was called to review that, and in 2 weeks they closed the file because it was noted he had osteopenia.
So that was, I don't know what osteopenia is.
It's brittle
Sorry.
bones, basically.
Oh, I see. So had been some broken bones for that
Yes.
child? And that was attributed to the premature birth.
Right.
That's correct.
So, okay, so you were already kind of on the radar then.
That's
Sounds that way,
correct,
yeah.
yes.
Okay, so that was with one child. And besides that, any other instances at all?
No.
No.
Nothing
No.
at all?
No.
And was there ever any time with the child that was on the infant that was on the floor that bumped into, where there had been any sort of a case of any sort of corporal punishment of this baby for crying or anything? This
Oh,
is
no,
normal
no.
sorts
No.
of thing.
No.
No.
Nothing.
She
like
didn't
that.
cry. She
Yeah.
whimpered.
Yeah.
She was a very quiet baby.
Yeah.
Very, very.
Well, what's the baby's name, by the way?
Bethany.
Bethany. Okay.
Now, I'm curious, when you went to Children's Hospital, was Dr. Haladi involved in any of this?
Later on, yes.
Later on, we called her and asked her for a second medical opinion because we knew Dr. Colburn's opinion was a misdiagnosis.
Right.
And her answer to us was that she couldn't step on any colleague's toes. So we were denied a second
couldn't interfere.
opinion from her.
So your 3 children were taken into custody and placed into foster homes. Were they divided up into 3 different foster homes? Were they kept together?
The 2 boys were in one foster home. Bethany was in another foster home.
And at that stage, you're probably thinking, this is just a horrible misunderstanding. It's bound to be cleared up in a few weeks or months. But that's not what happened.
No.
No,
Bethany.
that was
sorry.
wishful thinking.
Yeah.
No, that's not what
Zabeth,
happened. And
What happened? Just walk us through then what happened.
well, basically after the removal, we had a family meeting on October the 31st, and we knew at that point, we were told the ministry was not seeking second medical opinions, even though we asked for one. And if we wanted that, we'd have to seek that out on our own. So that started us on the journey of trying to find experts that knew child abuse issues that could review her files and her films and provide a second medical opinion.
So the ministry really didn't want to investigate. They had what they thought was their diagnosis of the shaking baby syndrome, and they were just going to ride that.
The funny thing is
Yes.
in court we found out that a report dated October the 22nd was falsified by the ministry. They knew that Bayne's situation was osteopenia, but when they wrote up the letter, they called it unexplained fractures. And our lawyer got him to admit, yes, that was falsified.
So they're falsifying documents to support their
build up their
position.
case.
4 days later.
To
Yeah.
build their case, that's
Yeah.
correct.
Listen, just we'll catch our breath here for a minute
Yeah.
because this is just horrific stuff to try to come to grips with.
It is.
We have our emails coming to us, and by the way, if you'd like to share some thoughts about anything on our show, send us an email to roadkillradio@live.ca. Here's an email from one listener viewer. I've been following this case for about a year or longer, and it's absolutely sickening what the government, the Ministry of Children and Family Development, and some individuals have done to this wonderful family. They are good parents who obviously love their children and would and have done everything and anything for them. Because of the corrupt Child Protection Agency, they have lost their home, Zabeth's grand piano, their careers, and most of all their children. The judge made a corrupt decision, which he must have known was so wrong, when he ordered the children to stay in government custody. Every day they are away from their parents is a day of suffering for the children and the parents. We cannot sit by any longer. We must protest en masse and let the politicians and the judiciary know that we are not going to have our families destroyed by corrupt thugs who would, if there were any real justice, be up on kidnapping charges. It's from Lee Johnson, who you might know. I don't know. It's
and I would suggest kidnapping charges and child abuse charges, because I can't think of anything more damaging to a child than to be ripped from their parents. This brand new baby, and I'm going to just jump ahead. We are going to come back, because I think it's important for our audience to know that there was some discussions about what to do. You didn't hide this next pregnancy.
No.
Matter of fact, an individual that's going to factor very heavily in what I have to say to the minister is an individual by the name of Bruce McNeil. And he wrote to you, and prior to this baby being born, basically saying, let's get a plan so we don't have to take this baby. Is that generally what his letter says, right?
That's what the letter says.
And so all is good intention. Now, I should tell our audience that Bruce McNeil has been in a number of cases in the past that I've been involved with, and I contacted one of the families that I think will be included in my challenge to the minister, a family named the Burnett family that was at the other end of this. They were the good foster family for some very troubled children, and what the ministry did to those children when they ripped them out of this well-intentioned, great foster home because a social worker didn't like this Christian family, is tragedy. It is a crime what has happened, and we have the time to tell now what's gone on with these kids. So Bruce McNeil is part of the problem, Minister. So he writes to the, and it sounds all nice, but this is where so much lip service is paid, and it would be really good if they would act on it. Did any kind of plan get put in place for you guys?
No.
No, we had, they sent some social workers over to our house one morning. I believe it's included in that correspondence, but we had asked for...
They pounded on your door for half an hour, even though you're working at nights now, so you can see your children.
Doors.
On all the doors.
Including the balcony door, for half an hour. And the meeting, we'd had no notification that they were coming that early in the morning to meet us.
Well, Zabeth had morning sickness. She was really, really sick in the morning. We spent half the night up.
So you're still pregnant at this time.
Exactly.
And these social workers, without notice, to discuss this meeting, are pounding on your door at an before 9 o'clock in the morning, if I remember right. From the information. Pounding on your door. Isn't there a better way of doing this?
They could have phoned.
They could have phoned.
Yeah.